Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. It's finally the week. Kingdom Hearts 3 Fan Festival, European Fan Festival live letter. I'm going to be doing a midnight launch stream for Kingdom Hearts 3 on Twitch. So if you're either not buying it, confused by the plot, whatever, just want to check it out, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on my Twitch channel. If you're watching on Twitch as I'm live recording this, you know where to be. If you're not, then on YouTube, just look down. There's a description. We will be doing a co-stream for the European Fan Fest. It's at 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Saturday. I will be doing something for that as well. And as I was mentioning Twitch chat, my chat window just went berserk, so I fixed that real quick. And Sunday is 1 a.m. for the live letter. I don't expect that to be that great, because there's not really a whole lot to talk about, and I imagine it's mostly the second half that's going to be a thing. But we're going to be doing co-streams or whatever for all of those, so or direct streams in case Kingdom Hearts 3, so be sure to come by. It's going to be a very, very busy week, because for those who don't know, I'm also moving again, and while that's not going to really consume much of this week, it's going to consume a lot of my mental and physical prowess, or I guess attitude, or attention, whatever. I don't know. Words aren't my specialty today because I'm tired as hell. And yeah, that's all thing behind me is gonna be different again, which is why I'm kind of using it, because this will be our memory of it. This is our memory right back here. But anyway, before we get started with the Q&A, we are going to cover our sponsors, our Patreon sponsors, as always. For anyone who doesn't know, ever since hashtag demonetized became a thing last year, we've had a Patreon channel, mostly just for supporting the YouTube channel to make sure we can still make all sorts of different kinds of content on the channel on a consistent basis. So with that, we of course have to thank our patrons of light first, Khuja Cross from Jenova and Kurenai Oni. On the Twitch side, you guys aren't seeing anything. You're seeing my ugly mug, which you've been watching comb my beard pretty much the entire last 5 hours. On YouTube, you guys are seeing screenshots that they've provided, so thank you again to our patrons of light. Can never say thank you enough times, but I do it every week anyway, because I like you guys a lot. There you go. Also, we have our large list of sponsors. We had a few names added to this, so if you don't like the name that I'm reading, be sure to let me know, and I'll be sure to edit it. We have our standard sponsors on Patreon. We have Kevin, Wabutalia, Alma Elma, Dark Lumina from Jenova, Marianne, Remil Gaming, Sabo Empire, Mizra, Red Wings and the Baron FC from Zalera, Cidus Oreo on Shiva, Syd Hellwind of Gilgamesh, Afro Ninja from Malboro, Cheesecat from Leviathan, That Lame Weeb, Ashen of Cerberus, Fafarian, Rendil, Stevie-Rex, and Neon. We have our elite sponsors. We have Emma, Nyrik Vizsla, The Fist of Brolger, Krista Uzuki, Craze the Meter from Midgard, Raijin Ventinus from Cactar, Carol, Ray, Senchi, Shadowlink on Tonberry, Dom, Asuka Wake from Jenova, Limilla Nelhah, Migros Armor, Saran the Fennel Family, Janhyua Yotsuyu, Kifka and the Great Eagles on Exodus, Katayoshi from Khuja, Skia Symphonia from Ragnarok, Rylanator Westaus The Purple Warrior, Yadric Red Steel on Exodus, Lexxie Valentine, Mantaru the Rivivus FC from Zodiark, Sour Cream and Chives from Jenova, Rynoet Chikara, Guish Valfar of Siren, Phoenix Down FC on Goblin, and Saren from Zodiark. Finally, we have our premium sponsors. We have Vapa Tiama of Diablos. We have Shadow Ari of Brynhildr, Zeravira of Coral, Alchemy, Shinka, Casual Heroes FC on Midgard's Armor, Tatachitaka on Hyperion, Kainazuki from Jenova, Ustarla on Coral, Sathal, Sarah Frost from Behemoth, Holy Tabasco, Crass 015, Mustang, Serenity FC on Ultros, Kat Kazuma, Ignis Farragon from Excalibur, Blessure of Fanfrit, Knock Quarters from Excalibur, Corvus Moonscar, Private Mikey, Nine Kirasami, Rudy Rudiker, Killer Hackman, Roll Jr., and Killtastic Jones. One or two of those names, I think, was supposed to be either moved or removed. But either way, thank you for everyone for supporting over on Patreon through hashtag demonetize. Anyway, I am going to get started with the questions. There's only a handful on the forums, and then we'll move over to the Twitch questions as we usually do. So let's get started. All right, question number 1. Hey, Haps. If this is truly the last week this forum is up, I just want to say big thank you for all your contributions. Oh, it's not even a question. All right, well, then we only have 6 questions. Well, thank you for the kind words. So about the forum thing, it accidentally renewed, even though we told it not to. So we might still have these for a while, but I'd still prefer to have an alternative, because again, these just kind of aren't going to much use outside of me. So we may still move ahead with getting like a different forum or a different website build set up, just not this one, something that's more direct to the Mr. Happy brand. But at the very least, these forums are still going to be here for now, but not forever. So they will go down eventually, just not yet. So thank you. Question number 2. Ayo, Mike. Hope you're having a good day. I'm tired as fuck, physically, mentally, everything, but you know what? We're doing good. In most MMOs, you have design philosophies that either focus around an aesthetic or a gameplay mechanic, with the build design for a WoW tune versus a Path of Exile tune. Oh god, I hate the term tune so bad. Being a good example. WoW and most MMORPG characters tend to be built around a flavor or aesthetic, while PoE characters are built around a certain skill or skill builds tend to be more focused on mechanics over flavor. To progress past the 15 non-limited jobs you currently have in the game, do you think 14 could benefit from adopting increased focus on developing jobs around mechanical ideas, or should they continue to build around flavor? For example, there are current many unexplored basic combat ideas that could be in 14, such as comboable spells, more types of castable AoEs, a job that focuses on cleave or two-target fighting, jobs that use multiple weapons or weapon types, having a job. I mean, they can do whatever they want. You're basically asking, can they do whatever they want? And the answer is yes, because what you've described isn't really any more designed around mechanical ideas than it is flavor, because a mechanical idea is a flavor. They can do whatever they want, but one thing I'll say, especially in regards to things like ones that focus on two-target fighting, in Final Fantasy XIV, the reason why we don't have specs between the various jobs is because you can be every job on a single character. So the need for a spec within a specific job is relatively unneeded from a gameplay perspective. You know, games otherwise tend to limit you to a job and thus need to provide you some sort of option in case you want to adjust your playstyle, because then the only other option is to make a brand new character overall. That being said, when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, every single job pretty much needs to be functional in every single kind of content. So when you start creating jobs that are specifically good in certain scenarios because that's their mechanical prowess, then you suddenly have a job that's useless versus other jobs in pretty much any content that doesn't involve that. I mean, even when you look at Blue Mage versus everything else, I mean, its design as a concept as a limited job is pretty much kind of in the same vein as making something that's only good with certain types of fights, like you've described with two-target fighting. Everything needs to be at least have some degree of prowess in some, I guess, specific form. And if you really want to break it down, we kind of already have that. I mean, Paladin's AoE is laughable, so you could say they're definitely more focused on single target encounters, and their utility in terms of group protection and everything, while still maintaining a relatively acceptable amount of DPS. In fact, not even just acceptable, I mean, up to 3 tanks, you know, they tend to fight back and forth with Dark Knight depending on what the fight actually is. That's kind of their specialty. Then you have Warrior, who's inner release plus 5 times AoE plus whatever, you know, leftover gauge they might have before or after, so even more AoE. And then you have Dark Knight, who's got kind of more of the same, you know, very, very powerful, but they're not any less powerful in single target scenarios. They're just more kitted out for those AoE scenarios as well. So I would say we already have a lot of these ideas and concepts. Comboable spells, you could argue Red Mage procs are comboable in a sense with how reliable they are to proc. But I mean, I get what you're saying, something more like a Dragoon in the way that it's always a constant flow going in a certain direction. And there's always room to do stuff like that. There's never a reason why they can't. It's a matter of if they will. But I don't think that what's been described here is any more a mechanical prowess than specific flavor, because they pretty much go hand in hand. I think of, you know, then there's concepts like, you know, doing damage to heal people, like specifically your damage heals nearby allies, or, you know, one of my favorite classes across any MMO I've ever played, and it's from a game that may not have any sort of clout anymore, but it's Chloromancer from Rift. So if you could think of something along those lines as well, I mean, there's all sorts of ideas that are out there that haven't been explored yet, and I think that it's just a matter of when or if they decide to explore certain ideas. I tell you one thing that's never going to happen in this game, though, so I hope this isn't a flavor for you. Fucking evasion tank ain't never going to happen. The closest thing you'll ever see to an evasion tank in this game is something that doesn't parry or block, but has its own version of parrying or blocking called partial evasion. You know, I can imagine like partial evade and you take less damage, but it's effectively the same as a block or a parry. That's the closest you'll ever get to an evasion tank in a game like this, because it just simply doesn't make sense for the way the game is designed. There's another thing you have to consider when messing with all those ideas, but that's the beauty of game design. You know, coming up with creative ideas around certain problems, certain other design choices that may inhibit your creativity. And I'm curious to see what they'll do. I expect that we'll just pretty much have, you know, the flavor of, you know, certain weapons and certain flows of combat, but that everything will still be functioning at full in pretty much any form of content. Question number 3. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. How have you been keeping this past week? Well, based on the English that just came out of my mouth, I think you've got a pretty good idea. I'm tired as all hell, but we're trucking through. I've been thinking about it since 4.5 came out, and I thought, what better week to post than when the forums are closing? Like I said earlier, we've kind of already accidentally paid for them again. So they may not close quite when we thought they were going to. So sorry for pressuring you into the question when you didn't actually want to. But let's read it. So back in 3.5, you can use an item to get a weekly from a weekly quest, specifically Proto Ultima is what you're referring to get an I-270 ring by completing Dunscaith, as well as lessening the burden of doing the 3 AR upgrades for all 260 accessories. It also allowed players who couldn't commit to raiding to obtain a full I-270 list before the end of the expansion. Coming from someone whose schedule is too volatile to commit to a raid group and get frustrated with pugs, do you think they will do this again? Personally, I hope they do, but supposing they did do it, who do you think would be 4.x's Proto Ultima? So here's the thing about Proto Ultima. Proto Ultima was our 24-man Fan Festival exclusive encounter that got put into the game. They always take those Fan Festival exclusive encounters and put them in the game in some way. Odin rewarded us with separated pieces of his glamour gear, which was a large request because people only had the choice of doing the full body down and the head and nothing else, on top of not having sets for other types of jobs in the game overall. And then we got Proto Ultima, who got shoved into the 24-man with, because he was the 24-man encounter, and they just shoved him into Dunscaith. But then you have ours right now, which is Yojimbo. Yojimbo is the trial for FanFest. And, if you've done Hildebrand, you kind of know that it's coming to a head there. And the question is, would they ever really stick item level 400 accessories from that? I'm not convinced they would, and so I don't think they'll do this again. I do agree with you, it was pretty nice to have another max item level accessory that wasn't just one of the 2 that you generally have available. And I know a lot of people that were grateful, so I think bards especially were grateful to pick up a few more crit accessories from that versus doing it any other way, really. So I don't think they'll do it again. If they do, the only place I could possibly imagine is from Yojimbo. But I'm just not that optimistic that it's going to happen. I just don't think it will. I'm sorry. Question number 4. Hey there, Mr. Happy. First time posters who have a bonus of Blitzball being delayed until 7.x. Man, why could you just say canceled? They're going to do it eventually. I have no doubt. I'm scared. My question is, do you think it would be possible for the 14 team to mirror characters to have them appear left-handed with the equipment screen staying the same? I'm trying to think of the technological issues with that. A lot of animations are designed to be done with the right hand. So you're just suggesting they flip it. And I'm pretty sure that still comes with a number of animation-related issues. I'm trying to think particularly about what they would be. A lot of the weapons and their designs aren't really too much of an issue, but I start to think of some of the animations, and also, as my Twitch chat has brought up, the hair. Honestly, there's a lot of issues with flipping anything because of the way the characters are designed from their base, and I don't think... Now, here's the thing. Would it be possible? Yeah. Is it probable versus is it a logical thing to do in terms of the amount of effort it would probably take to do it without completely ruining or breaking some things? Probably not. You know, it's a cool idea for immersion's sake to have the ability to be left-handed, but I think if they were gonna do left-handed, they would probably want to do it from scratch because it would actually look right. Because the number of issues that would come from outright mirroring would probably supersede the excitement of being able to appear left-handed in the first place. So it's a big old nope from me. I'm not against it, I just don't think they'll do it. Question number 5. Hey, Haps, thanks for answering my question last week. And my problem with the RNG on learning skills of blue is simply that it makes Blue Mage look, don't use that word anyway. Poor word, don't use it. Wouldn't recommend it. You should probably take it out of your vocabulary anyway. Moving on, I'll just take the rest of one of these. Let's see. When I'm thinking of limited jobs, do you commence in the dark? Giggity. And my vault of Blue Mage questions, but I edited it down to 1. I like Blue Mage questions. Sure, I'll take that one again. Would it be bad if Blue Mage were able to enter the Duty Finder? As it is, yes. Could they change it to make it more suitable to the Duty Finder? Absolutely. Will they? No. Pretty simple answers across the board, because I'm assuming those are probably the 3 questions you boiled down into a single question. And, no. Here's the thing. The easiest, obviously, forcing you to learn skills through job quests is the #1 way you kind of make sure they have the right abilities, but Level 50 pugs, Blue Mage from a utility standpoint is absurd. You know, they can pretty much tank all the dungeons, no problem. They can heal all the dungeons way too well. And the DPS isn't too great, but their utilities completely kind of break those dungeon mobs. So dungeons in particular, no. And then the Duty Finder, like if you're looking at bosses where those things don't work, they're useless. When you're tanking, your damage is non-existent outside of like 1,000 needles. When you're healing, you're pretty much just a giant AoE heal bot and nothing else, and it burns through your MP. And if you're and then if you're DPSing, it's way lower than everybody else's. So you're kind of a liability unless you're in the mass carnival or running something for fun. And then you're going to have to deal with the number of people who are literally just going to burn themselves to death with self-destruct and do nothing else over and over again. And yeah, that's their choice and it's in a dungeon, but you're going to see people do shit like that in like primals and whatnot. Any button that says kill me, somebody's gonna use it for the lulz, and there's gonna be a lot of problems with the outright Duty Finder if they were to just take it as is and do nothing and say, hey, go into the Duty Finder with random people. So no, I don't think they would do that. Question number 6. Hey Haps, how you doing? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Just finished Pyros and got my weapon. Haven't bothered with the light grind yet. I know they said to be able to do the stat rolling in Hydatos, but have they said if we need to do the initial step in the first place to work on the Hydatos version when it comes in about 2 weeks-ish? Yeah, hoping it does come in about 2 weeks. They said it would be about a month after the 4.5 part 1. So they usually, when they say about a month, it means 5 or 6 weeks. That's just the terminology I've come to accept it over time. But there's been no official announcement. We expect to get the official Hydatos date from the live letter coming from the European Fan Fest. As for that, so basically what happens, you need to complete your Pyros weapon. Completing your Pyros weapon does not include the light grinding step. That's literally just if you want stats on the Pyros weapon. From when you turn it from a Pyros weapon into a Hydatos weapon, you've then pretty much locked it in until you finish the Hydatos weapon without giving it stats as well. So if you choose to skip the light grind in Pyros, you can go right to the Hydatos step from there, but it'll have no stats and you won't be able to edit the stats until you are finished with it, like you were finished with your Pyros weapon the first time around. So you're basically working on a statless weapon until you decide to eventually do the light. Once you've started the Hydatos weapon, odds are you won't be able to touch the Pyros light step, and you also won't be able to touch the Hydatos one until you're done. So it's all sorts of little bits of confusing, but it makes sense in the grand scheme of things because it's pretty much matching the way you would have approached your Pyros weapon just later. And the last question on the forums, luckily these were all pretty short ones. Hi Happy, how you doing? Tired as hell, but you've heard that 3 times now, so let's move on. I'm sure you've had this question kind of often, however, I figure if you want to skip it, why not? Well, let's see. I've been starting to stream, kind of basic as now I just started. However, I thought I'd ask a pretty popular streamer. Stop it. Some tips to grow the channel. Oh man, yeah, you're right. That's a pretty super generic question. There's a second question here though, with Nail, Gaius, and Regula dead. Wait, no. You can't say that about Gaius. Oh, I guess you're saying that you don't count. No, Nail's gone. Oh, and then, okay, so I see the quotes. It means either they're figuratively dead or physically dead, because 2 of them are actually dead and 1 of them is not. But he's like dead as a concept. Okay, now I got it. What happens to their respective legions? They get replaced with new legatus. Yeah, I'd imagine they do. They're not just going to dissolve an entire part. It's like, well, there's nobody to tell us what to do, so I guess we're done. No, that's not how it works. You let someone else rise to power. You promote somebody else to the status of legatus. Yeah. No, those forces I think the 7th was completely wiped out. Just because of the events of the end of Realm Reborn, unless Gaius absorbed them into the 14th. I can't exactly remember what ended up happening to the remnants of the 7th, but it's been a long time since a Realm Reborn's text and stuff. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, they either get absorbed into other ones or they're going to replace them with another legatus. As for the first question, I mean, honestly, it's so broad a question, it's not kind of unanswerable, because it's either I give you a bunch of generic answers that you're like, oh, well, that's what everyone says, you know, why that's not real advice, or whatever. Like, honestly, you shouldn't even be thinking about growing a channel until you're even sure how much you like doing it. Like, you literally don't get into streaming and go, all right, I need to make myself bigger, because you're kind of just setting yourself up to not really know if you're cut out for it in the first place. And a lot of it's calculated, it's work, it's a second job if you ever want to consider that. You got to analyze metrics, you got to find something that makes you stand out over other people. You got to, there's nothing formulaic about it. A lot of it is just feel, if that makes sense, I suppose. So you can't just ask, how do I get bigger? It doesn't work. That question is generically answerable, and almost everyone's answer will be different and is possibly inapplicable to you. So you literally just need to stream, and then generic advice would be to treat every viewer like they're a member of a community and not just a viewer, and keep consistency. That's it, because once you've got that, I mean, you've got the starting formula for it, but that doesn't guarantee anything. So you just got to do it because you want to do it, and then worry about the rest of it later. Anyway, that's the last question when it comes to the forums as a whole. So Twitch chat, ask me a few questions. We'll see if any of them are good enough for the video. And then I'm going to go move boxes and shit to get ready for moving. So good luck. All right, so a question from the Twitch chat we have here. Hey, apps coming in 5.0, thinking about the next raid tier. Do you expect them to keep the 4th floor the same way with the gatekeeper like X-Faust? If they do you think they should be moving into their own instance so you clear them once per week and not have to continually clear them? I think I'll hit the second point first. The second point I'm kind of indifferent about. The one biggest complaint I have about Final Fantasy XIV raids is that they're all separated by individual instances, and that there's no sense of continuity like there is with the 24-mans, for example, or pretty much any other game's raids. So moving them into separate ones kind of just pushes that directive even more, and I don't like it now. So having 2 fights that are actually in the same one, yeah, I get it, that's kind of annoying to have to re-clear. I think I'd sooner accept, like, a check. Here's the thing, I don't want to accept, I guess, a checkpoint. I would sooner accept a checkpoint for clearing it for the week than I would, I guess, kind of accept separating them into their own. Because basically, you're asking for the same thing. You're asking for a checkpoint, so you have to re-clear it, pretty much, in every single instance. And I'd sooner rather do that within one instance as opposed to do it between every instance. Which, since they moved away from, like, Coil used to, the way Coil used to work, you could do that. Like, I remember when Coil first came out, if you cleared ADS in turn 1 and then went back in, you didn't have to re-clear ADS. You just walked up to Asclepius and you were already there, because your lockout had already saved to you clearing ADS. So no, I want that. I think they'll keep it because I think it's a big draw for raiders to go in and get that exclusive encounter. And I hope they continue it because it's as close to a 5th encounter as we're going to get. Omega MNF and Omega God Form, they were basically 2 full-length fights back-to-back with one another. And I love that. I think the bigger question is having nothing other than access to the second fight enough for the first half? I've always been of the opinion that the reward structure of raids, I wish there was more involvement with the rest of the game, like crafting recipes and stuff, or anything at all that could come from trash mobs or mini bosses or just something like that to give you a little bit more than a, hey, well, you have to do this first because we said so kind of thing. So I'm more into that idea than I am into giving it another instance to separate it even further. Alright, so it looks like that was the only question that we're going to add to the list. We had a bunch of other questions, just none that really made sense in context for the video. So if you have questions for Mondays with Mrhappy, the easiest way to guarantee I see them is to go into the description and ask on those Dream Network forums. Those ones that I said last week that would probably be gone come this week, or that this would be the last week that we use them. But they appear that they are going to be sticking around at least a little bit longer since we accidentally paid the bill for them, even though we said to cancel it. So I don't know how the hell that happened. If it does go down for any reason, though, then I'll start looking through the YouTube comment section again until I get some other situation worked out, because the YouTube comment section is kind of a really uncomfortable way to go about doing it. With that, though, thank you again to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to people on Twitch who've been hanging out while we do these Q&A type things. And on the YouTube side of things, that's going to be a wrap for me. Twitch, I'm going to be here for a couple more minutes before I wrap things up and go help with a few errands around the house and go get something to eat, because my mind is telling me I'm hungry. My head is hurting. everything is broken. Everything is just completely broken. So thank you for watching on the YouTube side of things. I will see you guys in next week's episode, where we will be people who have experienced Kingdom Hearts 3 the European Fan Fest opening keynote, and the live letter. And it's going to be a damn good time. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. And until then, take care. All right, and that's a wrap for the YouTube side of things. Oh boy. Gaming, stop. I wouldn't even be close enough to Josh to do that shit. FanFest is Saturday, Omega, 6 days from today. Shit, 5.5 days. Since it's at 1 a.m. and it's 1 p.m. already. It's actually almost 2 p.m., so less than 5.5 days. Oh man. Yeah, it's gonna be busy times. I am looking forward to it.